Hello again, everybody. I'm going to share my screen so you can take a look at our next slide. Here we are talking about the advantages of experiential learning. And as you can see, there are quite a few advantages. So I'm going to start by the bottom three, which are it's real life. It increases retention of knowledge when done correctly, and it can be a lot more engaging than some other types of learning, such as the traditional style, the banking model of a professor standing up in front of the room and students quietly listening. So some other advantages could be it opens up more opportunity for creativity, for movement, for ideas. It guides students towards the future of actually applying the knowledge in whatever way that might be applied in. It can promote communication skills when done socially with others, and it integrates theory and practice. There's some disadvantages potentially of experiential learning. So it requires patience because sometimes it takes time to figure things out, to problem solve, to work together. It is a decentralized process. Scalability in terms of having an experiential learning situation that works for everyone in the room. And is there a certain part where there's diminishing returns for the usefulness of that activity for students as they get to be more and more. Getting the right experiences for the learning that's being targeted and collecting feedback can also be a challenge. So promoting intrinsic motivation, a couple of principles here. First, significant learning takes place when the subject matter is relevant to the personal interests of the student. Second, learning proceeds faster when the threat to self is low. So if you think about experiential learning that involves some kind of role play, that might be really intimidating to a shyer student or might make them feel uncomfortable in class. So definitely mitigating some of those concerns can be useful as an instructor. And then finally, self-initiated learning is the most lasting and pervasive. Okay, so the instructional theory, we're talking about KELP again. So adopts the experiential learning theory by David Kolb, the principles and stages of the experiential learning process. So this was created as a self-reflection tool to help learners understand themselves better through an ideal process of learning. And we talked about already, I will move this so you can see it better. It is interconnected, experiencing, reflecting, thinking, and acting, which goes back into experiencing. So there are, I apologize for this being in the way, 8 areas that raise ethical questions with experiential learning. So I'm going to cover a few of these. So bias in what is covered, inadequate student choice, lack of adequate debriefing, and personal exposure in the class and the community. We did just talk about kind of the vulnerability that can come with a more interactive form of learning as opposed to just sitting still and listening. So a question we could ask, an ethical question, is how much choice does the student really have about how much they participate? If they're being graded, they might feel coerced into that. How balanced is the content? Are there strong norms of confidentiality? Going back to that exposure aspect, that would be helpful to be setting a classroom expectation beforehand so that people do feel more safe and secure. Is feedback coupled with the exercises? Do students know how to give behaviorally specific comments? All important questions to be asking when instigating experiential learning. Okay, so some more issues. Issue of deception, role behavior being personalized, the negative impacts of feedback, the degree of boundedness of experiential activities. So we did just talk about feedback. How much should boundaries be set about what can be said and what can't be said? In addition to these points, there are two other important areas, such as building a supportive learning environment and monitoring personal impact. So I feel as though there can be more risk associated with experiential learning, which is why these questions need to be asked. Guidelines for experiential learning. So high quality listening. So this relates to sharing space with others that take the lead, not just wanting a few dominant voices, utilizing growth mindset when approaching challenges together, and avoiding generalizing your experiences to others. Just again, trying to support a positive experience for students that helps them with their learning. So analogies and metaphors. So these can be used to help engage the learner, to help expand their understanding of a concept. So analogies and metaphors are types of colorful language that enliven the meaning of a topic, provoke emotions, and utilize context already familiar to learners. So an example of this is learning is a subject. Learning is a subject is like building a house. You can do it brick by brick. And so it creates the metaphor, it creates the idea of how learning can be done piece by piece. It can help paint a picture in the mind of the student or create an emotional understanding of information that connects to prior knowledge. So they can be particularly useful in this type of learning.